she trusted the process. She trusted our advice. We got her over $150,000 in assistance. And now she's living in her single family home that she can age in place in, which is just a beautiful thing. As we get older, even my parents, they didn't have retirement plans. No one, we were just paycheck to paycheck, just living, doing what we got to do to survive. Right. And now it's a blessing. I can show people options hey, you don't have to live like this.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation about home ownership with Anzhane Slaughter of the Seattle-based organization Young Black Homeowners and Dawn Bennett of the Kent-based United Way supported organization African American Leadership Forum. Anzhane and Dawn have partnered on a program that provides six-figure down payment assistance for Black and Brown families seeking to purchase homes in our area. We will also offer one last reminder about this year's free tax preparation campaign for those who still have time to file, and we'll discuss a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. At United Way of King County, we work to ensure that all of our neighbors have access to safe and secure places to live. We administer funding for coordinated countywide responses, invest in proven strategies, and advocate for policies that address one of the most talked about concerns in our area, stable housing. As we work to prevent homelessness before it happens, United Way stewards public and private funds to support our partners in delivering direct services, such as case management, flexible funding, legal support for eviction prevention and mediation, and rental assistance. And we also support partners that have launched creative ways to provide housing for people of color who historically have been denied opportunities to purchase homes and generate wealth through home ownership. They include African American Leadership Forum of Kent, a United Way supported organization committed to the revitalization and sustainability of communities of color in areas such as health and wellness, education, and economic development. African American Leadership Forum is helping Black and Brown families purchase homes via its down payment assistance program. The organization works with Seattle-based nonprofit Young Black Homeowners to provide homebuyers with $100,000 in down payment assistance. Young Black Homeowners also offers home ownership education and access to government resources, and it provides training for educators, businesses, and other organizations that engage with the Black community. Since the partnership was launched in 2023, African American Leadership Forum and Young Black Homeowners have provided down payment assistance to more than 40 families. Those families are now homeowners in cities in King and Pierce counties. Many are first-time homebuyers in their 20s and 30s, but some are grandparents who have discovered the partnership that at last has made the dream of buying a home attainable. Such is long overdue in King County, where many people of color have historically been denied access to homes for sale or confined to low-income neighborhoods due to discriminatory practices such as redlining and racial restrictive covenants. According to the University of Washington's Racial Restricted Covenants Project, about 28% of Black families in King County own their homes, as opposed to white homeowners at 62%. The Racial Restricted Covenants Project says that historically, homes purchased by Black, Latino, and Indigenous families have been worth less than those purchased by white families. And as home values have increased exponentially in our area, white families have been able to build generational wealth through home ownership in ways families of color have not. Add to that the Federal Housing Authority's assistance programs that help white families move into the suburbs, but discriminated against families of color, as well as wages in our area that have scarcely kept up with the housing market, and it's easy to see how the home ownership gap has grown. But African American Leadership Forum Executive Director Dawn Bennett and Young Black Homeowners founder and CEO Anzhane Slaughter are working to change that. The two go way back. Dawn once served as Anjane's mentor at African American Leadership Forum, and after Anzhane went on to graduate from the University of Washington and earned her real estate license, she sought to answer a call to support African Americans seeking homeownership, just as Dawn supported her. As our area is still searching for lasting solutions to the housing crisis and denouncing our failed attempts, Dawn and Anzhane are making progress and generating hope for Black families seeking homes of their own. African American Leadership Forum is a member of United Way of King County's Black Community Building Collective, a group of Black-led organizations that build relationships, share best practices, and implement strategies with United Way funding. Hourglass sat down with Dawn and Anzhane for a conversation on topics such as each organization's work helping Black families secure homes, their partnership, their progress, and the current state of Black home ownership in King County. We begin with Dawn, who spoke about how Anzhane helped African American Leadership Forum enter the home ownership assistance space.
Anzhane Slaughter brought this work to African American Leadership Forum to do our economic development piece. The economic development piece hadn't been worked on very much because I was busy helping young people in education and helping young people who have been involved in the criminal justice system, because we have 5 areas that we work within. It's education, economic development, child well-being, health and wellness, and criminal justice. So while I was working on the other 4, I was also mentoring young people. While I was mentoring, I mentored Anzhane Slaughter while her mother was on the board. And then her mother brought Anzhane Slaughter to the African American Leadership Forum board. Anjane's mother, when Anjane was a young girl, didn't want Anjane to get caught up in any mess. And so she had me mentor her. And as I mentored her, I saw that Anjane was learning so many things and learning how to make her way into the University of Washington, right? Mm-hmm. And as she made her way into the University of Washington, she learned about this real estate stuff and down payment assistance. Then she saw I was trying to help families. So then she told me African American Leadership Forum can get dollars for down payment assistance when it came after she grew up and did the work. And then it came to us through her. She brought it to us.
What were some of your initial impressions once you started working with Anzhane about the state of African Americans trying to achieve home ownership on top of your own experiences?
One, I didn't think it was as bad as Anzhane presented to me. So she did a study where she found that it would take 40 years for us to close the gap between white folks and Black folks in home ownership. It would take 40 years of this sort of help. And my outlook on that was because my mother had always kept us in a house. Mm-hmm. So I thought everybody was doing that. So we were in a house, bought a house, rented a house, always in a house. Mm-hmm. And so I was surprised at the work that needed to be done. As I'm trying to be on the streets, working with education and criminal justice in those gaps, Anzhane introduced me to this other gap that is even worse. Right. And is the reason for the gaps that I was already working on. So there's gaps everywhere. Anzhane and I are living it because she and I are trying to stand in different gaps and being overwhelmed while we stand in the gaps and try to fix some of the problems.
Anzhane said she launched Young Black Homeowners in 2022 after discovering that there were many people in Black communities who, like her, didn't come from home ownership backgrounds and weren't born into wealth.
And as we know, real estate education, financial education is not taught in schools. And so I took the charge. I felt it was my responsibility to share the information that I had with my community because it is and has always been the number one way to build wealth.
And so how did you go from idea to maybe concept to where you are now?
Yeah, ideation took maybe 2 years before it actually was established. Okay. And a lot of times I'm very spiritual. I was raised in the church. I believe as an entrepreneur, you got to have faith because, it's not always about what's in your bank account to keep us going. So throughout that 2 years, I had, this voice in my head. I will claim it to be God the whole time, telling me, you need to do this. You need to step out. There is no Black-owned real estate education company out there. There's a lot of resources that are available. It just took time. Timing is so important. But when I was tired of waking up in the middle of my sleep from not doing my God-given assignment, January 11th, 2022 was the day.
Well, and so you, from the outset, wanted to make it an organization where people can get not only education, but financial assistance?
So it's interesting how it starts because, when you're entering into the real estate industry, you're just thrown into the deep end. No one tells you how to build a business, how to operate your business, run your business. So for a while, since I was licensed in 2018, I was doing workshops. I was doing events. I was sharing education. I just didn't realize that this is actually the pre-work to my real estate education company. So I was able to kind of put all of the work that I was already doing together under one model and umbrella and founded YBH.
And so how did you get to the place where you were actually able to help people financially?
Oh, well, financially is one thing. Helping people is another, right? So I've been helping people since I've been serving in this industry. And even before that, in the policy and advocacy work. But definitely our huge wins have come since 2023, where YBH, along with our partners over at African American Leadership Forum, have secured about $4.8 million in assistance that has gone straight out into community in the form of $100,000 down payment assistance programs, $25,000 grants to help pay down people's debt so that they can qualify for homes. So that came much later.
Right. And so how many people have you helped with African American Leadership Forum? How many households, how many families have you helped get a home?
Yes. Since 2023, over 45 families. Huge. And these are families that would have never thought it was possible to purchase a home. These are likely single income households that needs at least 3 bedrooms. They're Black and brown individuals who were either harmed by the war on drugs or harmed by racial-based covenants here in Washington State. And so to have the opportunity, the privilege to serve and to inspire and bring hope, restore hope in people's lives for a greater future has really been a blessing.
Now, it's one thing to be able to do that. I'm sure it's another to do that in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the country. What is that like?
100%. Absolutely. And it only gets more complicated when you start to layer more programs. The reality is we do live in a high value market where you do have to make really good income and have low debt even to qualify for a home loan and meet sellers where they're at. So these assistance programs are closing the gap between what people qualify for and what they afford. Now, sometimes we have to layer multiple programs to do that because we live in such a high value market. One of our greatest wins was when we were able to help someone with $360,000 in assistance. That was layering the city of Tacoma's money with the state's money, with my money at YBH to close that gap. And it gets complicated because when you're working with different programs, you have different underwriting criteria, you have different eligibility requirements. And so everything really does have to line up in order for the numbers to math. But again, it's the work that I'm here to do.
So as we talk right now, spring of 2026,
yeah,
what is the state of home ownership for African Americans in this area?
Oh, well, there's more opportunity now than there ever has been in real estate. And that's largely due to the home covenant loan that was passed through our state legislature. A huge shout out to our House of Representatives and our Senate up there making this legislation possible. What it did was it offers 20% down plus closing costs up to $150,000. That is just one program. This program is fresh. It's brand new. It came out, rolled out to the scene in 2023. So for families that have lived in Washington state prior to 1968 and are either Black, Latinx, Native American, Pacific Islander, or Korean can qualify for up to 20% down plus closing costs as long as they make under 120% area median income. In King County, that's about $188,000 a year. Pierce County, that's about $156,000 a year. But that's most of our community who meet the requirements that have family here in Washington state prior to 1968. And when we say family, we're talking about parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. So the opportunity is there. I will say on the market side, inventory is starting to stack up. We're getting more inventory. Market is actually leaning more towards a balanced, favorable market for buyers than sellers. There is a slowdown happening right now due to all of the geopolitical things that are happening, and prices of gas and groceries still climbing. Buyers are starting to hold on to their pocketbooks for good reason, and sellers are having to adjust. They're having to meet buyers where they're at. So when we combine the assistance programs that are on the scene, and that's only for Washington state,
right? Only
our state passed that. We're the first state in the country. Hopefully other states will jump on board because there's people all over the country that need access that were harmed by racial-based covenants. But when we look at the programs and then we look at the market and how whenever inventory is rising and buyers are decreasing, that's a buyer's market. That's buyer's favorable. We're able to get closing costs paid for, concessions, rates bought down, brand new roofs put on homes if you're working with the right professional. And so
now you grew up in this area, right? So you know more or less the state of what it's like to live in this area, even before you got into the real estate business.
100%.
Yeah. But now, once you got in, if there was one thing where you would say, before I really started doing this professionally, I didn't know blank, what would that blank be?
Oh my God. I didn't know the first thing about homeownership, about owning a home. I come from a background of government assistance, single parent household, Section 8 living. We lived in houses, but I didn't know that we were renting the whole time. So just knowing the difference between owning and renting. It's, I always say to whether there are participants that are attending our workshops or our classes or just people that I'm talking to, partners, there's never no stupid question. There's nothing too simple because, quite frankly, the communities that have been taught to survive instead of thrive know nothing about investing. We have been taught to hold on to every penny that we make, to rather see the money in our bank account, save every dollar rather than invest it out of fear of risk, risk of loss. Well, but we can't build wealth. We simply cannot create safety nets for ourselves, for our families. We can't have stability. We can't own our land and have control over our lives if we're consumers and not owners.
Right.
And that's just the truth. So I'm not here reinventing the wheel by any means. I'm just sharing the information to my community in a way that's culturally relevant, that's trauma-informed, that can be understood so that we can have the tools, no matter what kind of background you come from, to go out and apply the information so that you can have a better, stronger, more stable life in the future.
And when you do this work, regardless of where it might come from, do you ever hear any pushback?
All the time. People are always suing the Covenant program because they don't understand the need to address harm, right? There's always going to be people that just don't agree with reparative justice. Or they don't want to share their wealth. A lot of people don't agree with racism, but they profit off of it. And, once you start impacting their pockets, now it's a different conversation. So a lot of the work that we do is on the policy level so that we can create programs that do not exist. So there is pushback there. There's pushback within community just because we are trauma informed. We have been harmed by almost every sector, every institutionalized system in this country. And so when I'm working with community, when I'm training our other navigators and educators that are real estate professionals, we're sensitive to these realities because it's going to come, but that's not going to stop. The pushback doesn't stop the work. It tells us that we're doing exactly what we should be doing. The great thing is that these programs are sustainable, that most of our programs are zero interest, that you don't have to pay back until you sell or pay off your 30-year mortgage. And then when you do pay off your 30-year mortgage after your home has done 3 backflips and grew in value, then that money comes right back so that we can help another family in the future. So it is a sustainable program that we hope to, continue for generations to come.
And I want to know if you can tell me one story, maybe 2 stories, anecdotes doing this work where you've helped someone and you said, you know what, this is why I'm here. You talk about the blessing and everything, but once you're in it, right? What stories make you say, this is where I should be?
Absolutely. This is a great question. And the first 2 people that come to mind, we actually awarded them at our just recent Black Equity Ball. So every year we have a celebration of existing and aspiring Black homeowners. And at our celebration, it's a formal gathering, usually the last Saturday of February. We awarded Sharika. Sharika is one of our homebuyers that came through our program 2 years ago. And she knows, and I said at the ball, I'll say it here, she had a 400 credit score then. And it was devastating to her. It felt insurmountable, a mountain that she could just not get under. Well, we helped her figure out a budget based on her income and expenses. Now, she stuck to that budget. She did the hard work and was disciplined over those 2 years, kept us updated every time a debt was paid off. And when time came, now fast forward, she's in contract. She's ready to close in 2 weeks on a townhouse for her family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, almost 1,500 square feet. She's getting stability, structure. I mean, going from, squalor almost in some of these rental apartments, these landlords out here for our community, it's just a shame what they're getting away with. But because we don't have good credit or we don't have good income, we can't afford anything else. We have to live with what we're given. Well, she knew that she wanted better for her family. She knew that she wanted to get out of that and she deserved that. And so she stuck it out. She's closing on this townhouse that is in the 400,000s. Mm-hmm. So you went from 400 credit score to now $400,000 on a townhouse that she can entertain and have Christmases and barbecues and just give her children and the family the upbringing that they really deserve. So stories like that, they really touch my heart. Another quick one, Tina. Now, people often think about young Black homeowners as if, and they say that they think the young means that we only serve young people. Well, that's simply just not true. I founded Young Black Homeowners and named it YBH because it's a declaration that young Black people are homeowners, that we are professionals, that we are developers, that we are leaders, and that we can do this work with quality, care, and the service and professionalism that we all look for when looking to purchase or sell their home. So that's why it's YBH. And Tina, she's a grandparent. She's a first-time homebuyer. She's, has grandkids, grown kids older than me, and we were able to help her. She comes from a background where her mom and everybody around her were buying houses in cash. So they this is you could buy a house in the CD in the 40s for $25,000, so they just would save their money and then buy it in cash. So the whole idea of investing, of taking out a mortgage loan, of filling out the documentation, the paperwork, this was all foreign to her, but she trusted the process. She knew that she wanted more for not only her kids, but her grandkids, where she's very active in their lives. And so she trusted the process. She trusted our advice. We got her over $150,000 in assistance. And now she's living in her single family home that she can age in place in, which is just a beautiful thing. As we get older, even my parents, they didn't have retirement plans. No one, we were just paycheck to paycheck, just living, doing what we got to do to survive. And now it's a blessing. I can show people options hey, you don't have to live like this.
Dawn says that having helped more than 40 people of color gain home ownership in 3 years means that the African American Leadership Forum partnership with Young Black Homeowners is off to a successful start.
It's not the ultimate success, but it means African American Leadership Forum has had a little bit of success with home ownership, which is the most important, right? It means as these young fellas are out here on the streets trying to help their families, keep a roof over their head and keep money in their pockets, that means we're going to be able to tell them a different story about home ownership, equity, how to get loans. Some of the young people that I used to help on the streets were in Anjane's training and were learning other things. So that sort of success. It also says that it's not enough success. 40 people is not success, right? It's success because it's a start. It would be more successful if it were ongoing, and those who are helping with the funding and the resources understood the amount of dollars that African American Leadership Forum would have to have in order to keep this going. We're asking for grants every 2 years, which is it's not set up for African American Leadership Forum to be successful, but it's set up for single families to be successful in getting home ownership.
Anzhane said check out Young Black Homeowners' website to learn more about the Down Payment Assistance Program. The website also offers information on classes for future home buyers that cover topics such as credit, finances, and other down payment programs. And she says her organization has a grand opening and ribbon-cutting event in June.
Look us up. We're all over the internet. Youngblackhomeowners.net is our website. You can sit down and have a one-on-one. We actually have our grand opening of our commercial space. Grand opening is June 5th, 2026, just less than 45 days away, right in the CD at the McKinney Center, which is a hub for Black economics and business. We invite everyone to come to that event, but even post the event, you'll be able to drop in, get on our calendar, attend one of our workshops. Also, just stay connected on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Young Black Homeowners, and join our newsletter. On the website, you can scroll all the way down to that homepage, and you'll see a place where it says Stay in the Loop. All you have to do is include your email address there, and you will get regular communication from us on everything that we have going. So,
thank you so much, Anzhane Slaughter. Young Black Homeowners, really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
Again, for more information about Young Black Homeowners, log on to its website, youngblackhomeowners.net. The regular April 15th tax filing deadline has passed, but if you live in King, Pierce, Snohomish, or Thurston County, you still have time to file without a penalty. That's because those local counties are among 17 across Washington state where residents still have until May 1st to file taxes due to last December's flooding. It also means you have time to see if you qualify for United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign. United Way provides free tax prep for individual filers making less than $80,000 a year or less than $96,000 a year for non-single filers. During much of tax season, we offer free tax prep services at nearly 24 in-person sites throughout King County, and we offer a virtual site. Some of those in-person sites are now closed following the regular tax deadline, but you can still get your taxes prepared for free virtually and in the following in-person locations: the Downtown Seattle Library, HopeLink Center in Bellevue, HopeLink Center in Shoreline, Westfield South Center Mall in Tukwila, and the Enumclaw Library. For more information, log on to myfreetaxeswa.org. World Relief Western Washington of Kent is looking for volunteers to work in its Paradise Parking Plots community garden. Paradise Parking Plots is a 2-acre garden that provides spaces for refugee, immigrant, and Kent residents to grow cultural foods and reconnect with the soil. World Relief will train volunteers to do tasks such as weeding its food forest, controlling pets and diseases, and taking part in construction projects. For more information, log on to worldrelief.org/Western-WA and click on the Get Involved page. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by generous donations from people like you. Please send all comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglass@uwkc.org. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn via @UnitedWayKC. And to learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.